Capcom's latest retro collection is so far paying excellent tribute to all of its eras and some slightly more obscure entrants into its fighting game back catalogue. There's no doubt about it. In addition to being the uncontested king of modern remakes, Capcom could also lay a strong claim to the crown when it comes to beautifully packaged remaster compilations, having already shown its catalogue of fighting games, beat-em-ups, and obscure Marvel crossovers a new lease of life with their own distinct collections previously. Even more deep cuts are set to hit modern platforms on May 16th by way of the rather self-explanatory Capcom Fighting Collection 2. The difference this time, however, is that Darkstalkers is no longer the headline draw, alongside Street Fighter 2's usual red carpet treatment. Instead, this is a sequel package that sees even more eclectic oddballs from Capcom's fighting game history step into the spotlight, now with a distinct emphasis on those rendered in 3D. Getting the obvious out of the way, and this time around there are only 8 games included as opposed to the 10 seen in the original Capcom Fighting Collection. On paper, I could see how this might be at risk of leaving some fighting game enthusiasts feeling shortchanged. That said, given the amount of sheer IP and franchise variety on offer here, I'd say the collection better exudes the energy of a true celebration. Not just for Capcom, of course, but also SNK, whose characters appear prominently here in both the original Capcom vs SNK and indeed its sequel. Both games featuring so prominently is no coincidence given Terry Bogard and May's recent DLC appearances in Street Fighter 6, ensuring that there's plenty of synergy between Capcom Fighting Collection 2 and the publisher's latest modern effort. For this preview, I can only discuss my impressions of 6 of the 8 titles, and handily, the Capcom vs SNK titles are included. As the headline crossover fighters of this package, both games are faithfully presented in all their brilliant 2D pixelated glory, and despite the first game's roster being a little heavier on the Street Fighter side of Capcom, perhaps understandably, this is more than made up for by the sequel's inclusion of more obscure characters, such as Maki and Rolento. In general, both Capcom vs SNK titles look and play faithfully to the original arcade versions, being a good way for players less familiar with SNK franchises like Fatal Fury and King of Fighters to get stuck in. I was particularly impressed by how well the second game's 3D stage designs held up, serving as a nice tease for what was to come in Capcom's future. Leaving arguably the collection's most ambitious crossover fighter, Capcom Fighting Evolution, to one side for this preview, it wouldn't be a true Capcom collection without a dedicated Street Fighter game. Here it comes in the form of Street Fighter Alpha 3 Upper. Originally released in arcades back in 2001, I'd be lying if I said that this was my favourite iteration of Capcom's iconic series. Yet this isn't to say that there still isn't value in what is easily the most complete version of Street Fighter's red-headed stepchild. Being the last of the main series to be presented in 2D, there's also a sweet sense of nostalgia that comes from seeing such iconic characters butt heads, especially since Shin Akuma and Final M Bison are now finally playable for the first time ever in this version when unlocked in the game's settings. Easily the biggest appeal of Capcom Fighting Collection 2 for me is of course its foray into 3D fighters. This was something that left the first Capcom Fighting Collection feeling like it had a gaping hole in its lineup, a hole that is now happily filled here with the likes of Project Justice, Plasma Sword, and perhaps most excitingly, Power Stone. Only being able to discuss the latter's sequel for the time being, I'd forgotten just how different this greatly expanded sequel feels to the original. No longer forcing players to leap about the stage collecting Power Stones and then trading fists one-on-one, Power Stone 2 shares a lot more in common with the likes of Super Smash Bros. It's a 4-player fighting frenzy with stages that consistently evolve, definitely bringing its own flavour to this collection as a result. Project Justice, by comparison, plays it a lot straighter, refreshingly so. Though technically a sequel to 1997's Rival Schools, it stands as its own competent 3D fighter where you must try and demolish 3 different characters on the opposing team one after the other. The included characters might not quite be as distinct as those seen in Capcom's other fighting game series, admittedly, but Project Justice is still a cool schoolyard curio to now have easy access to. The same can very much be said for Plasma Sword Nightmare of Bilstein, the earliest of the 3D fighters to feature in this collection. Though this does often result in character models that aren't quite as impressive as other 3D fighters featured here, the extravagant arenas and intergalactic theme does a lot of heavy lifting. Finally, Capcom's penchant for presenting its retro games in the best light possible continues in Capcom Fighting Collection 2. Such tweakable options as CRT filters, aspect ratio of the screen, and the ability to switch between the English and Japanese versions of each featured game makes it easy to alter the play experience perfectly to your liking. These, complete with the inclusion of each game's original original arcade marquee cards, and several flashy border screen options all should help render Capcom Fighting Collection 2 not just a fighting game time capsule, but a bona fide museum piece. The overall selection of Capcom classics here might be more obscure, but nearly all of them are set to pack a solid punch when bundled together later this May. So there you have it guys, in terms of our early initial impressions of Capcom Fighting Collection 2. Are you still excited? Let us know in the comment section below. And why not subscribe to the Mirror Gaming YouTube channel to stay up to date with even more videos like this. Until next time, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.